What's up, everybody? Welcome in to a pretty sweet version of the 1796 Sports Podcast as both men's and women's basketball teams have advanced to the Sweet 16. Not many schools can say that every year, and Tennessee did it this year. We'll start with the men, though. Pretty easy stride into the Sweet 16. What'd you think about it, Jim?
Wasn't easy at first. You talk about it, the the game was pretty tight going in, to the closer to the end of the first half, and then Rick Barnes did his little Jedi mind trick on the UCLA Bruins with the 1-2-2 or the 2-1-2 defense, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
um, and really sparked the Vols from there. Went to halftime 32-25, and it was no looking back from there. And Chaz Lanier doing Chaz Lanier things. I don't know what happened there in that Florida game in the SEC championship, but it flicked a switch in him, and he has been lights out since. So hopefully they can continue that. When Kentucky comes to town.
Yeah, when the Vols travel up to Indy this Friday. Um, if Chaz is going to average 24 and a half points, it's going to be hard to beat Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yeah, 29 against Wofford, 20 against UCLA. Um, and like you said, ever since that he fouled out of that Florida game in the SEC championship, he's been locked in. And Zakai has been doing the Zakai things too. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of point guards, or when people watch point guards, the casuals, they look at points really, and I'm like, that's not what point guards should be doing. Point guards should be getting everybody involved, and Ziegler is the master of that. Like he'll a lot of games you'll see Ziegler with 0, 2, 3 points at halftime, but he has like 9 assists, and then in the second half he starts scoring, and that's been key. I think. I mean, especially in a tournament where not everybody has played in before on this team. Igor hasn't, Chaz hasn't, uh, Akpara. I don't know if Ohio State made it last year, but just getting everybody involved, getting the jitters out. I think that's going to be big as we move forward here.
Well, yeah, and then you got Jordan Gainey coming off the bench giving you 13. I
Yeah,
mean, a guy coming off the bench like that scoring 10 plus is huge. Um, and another game that was a game where Jemai Mashak was in foul trouble,
hmm
and that's something we can't have during the Kentucky game. This is one thing, you know, you can't have, and we'll have a pregame podcast later on that one. But Jemai Mashak, being in and out all game wasn't a help, but obviously it didn't really hurt us at the end. So, but like I said, Jordan Gainey, awesome job off the bench. Chaz Lanier doing his thing, and the big men doing their thing. I mean, everyone was really getting the rebounds. Cade Phillips had 6, Akpara and Milicic had 6 or 7 each. So they were doing what they had to do on the board. So that's huge for us.
yeah. I was very happy with the way Cade played during that game because in the first half when things were a little push and go there until we separated closer to halftime, that Mara kid, the guy, the dude who's 7'3", um, he was scaring me a little bit. And then they finally figured a way to just get him out of the game. They were doing something where Mick Cronin was just like, okay, well, I can't have him in the game. And then Tennessee separated from there. But Agpara played as good a defense as you can against guys like that. And Bilodeau, too. I mean, he's just as good as that 7'3" dude. And like you said, the big men came to play. I will say pretty much my only complaint in the first 2 rounds is that I need Igor to be more aggressive, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I know he has it in him, and the good news is his last really good game was in Lexington versus Kentucky, so maybe he'll bring that type of effort Friday night.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to need a huge effort from everybody because, like, we've said it before. I mean, when this team is clicking at all cylinders, I don't think anybody could beat this Vols team. I think it's the best team in the country when they come to play. I mean, we've only seen that less than a handful of times this year. But when we saw it, they dominated, and I think they could do that against any team. And they played really well against UCLA. I mean, UCLA is a really good team. Sky Clark had 18 against us. That seemed like he wasn't missing anything in the first half. So I was like,
Yeah.
oh, he's going to be that guy that scores 30. And just, I was worried in the first half. I ain't going to lie. And then it was just right at the 3 minute, 4 minute mark where they just turned it around and said, not today. So that was a big little momentum shift going into halftime.
Yeah, I mean you already mentioned it. The trap that we were running just got UCLA all out of sorts there. And there was a story that came out. I can't remember who posted it, but Zakai Ziegler. It was his idea, and it stifled them. We got 3, 4 turnovers off of it, sped them up because they were trying to milk that clock. I think UCLA knew the more possessions in this game, the least likely of a chance they have to win, and it just changed the whole tenor of the game. I mean, but I was never really worried. Like I kind of figured, even if Tennessee was down at halftime, they would find a way to beat that UCLA team because their guards just aren't as good as our guards, which is what it comes down to a lot of the times in March. Um, Sky Clark was in foul trouble too in the first half, and like I said, it was just one of the. As long as I've been watching, this is the easiest path to the Sweet 16 that I've ever seen. Like none of the games were really stressful, down to the wire games. Um, I mean, even when we had Grant and Admiral and Lamonte and Jordan Bone, Jordan Bowden, that team in 2019, we had to go to overtime with Iowa in the second round to make the Sweet 16. Even last year, Texas gave us all we wanted in the second round. So it was nice to not have to stress to get to our now third Sweet 16 in a row, which just speaks to how good Rick and the boys have this thing going.
Yep, and that's what we're gonna expect come this week against Kentucky. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like I said, you're gonna have to play an all around game, but we've said it even the 2 games prior that we should have beat Kentucky. I mean, the first time we lost to them, we shot 20 more shots than them and still lost.
Yeah,
Like,
that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen a lot.
yeah, so it all depends on what team you get. I think you're gonna get a revenge type thing.
Yeah,
I just don't see it. I think these guys are gonna come in angry. So, um, but talk about this game, they did what they had to do. Like you said, stress free. It was kind of just you know, kind of like you said earlier, you get those jitters out. Second round, you're gonna go to Indy, and you're playing a rival that you lost to twice already.
yeah,
You got to do what you got to do to get it done.
yeah. And like you said, we'll talk about this more later in the week. We'll have a preview episode, but Tennessee fans got to travel. It's closer to Lexington, Indianapolis is, and Kentucky basketball has a bigger fan base as it is. And last
Oh,
year
and
in
they
the,
want it. They want
yeah,
it
of course
so
they
bad.
want it. Both fan bases want this so bad. Like,
Well, I think we want it more just because we've lost twice.
yeah, but I think once you get to the tournament, of course everybody wants to win, but and like I said, we'll talk about this later in the week. But the last thing I'll say about this upcoming game is I really don't think Zakai Ziegler is going to let his career end against Kentucky or Jemai Mashek. So
No, and they're missing their best player. So
yeah, Jackson Robertson, yeah, he's
yeah, and Lamont Butler shut him down. You have no problem. We'll talk about it more at the end of the week.
yeah. Any more thoughts on the men before we move on? Like I said, there's not much to talk about here. I mean,
No,
it's kind of just expected at this point from this team, and I know there's a portion of the fan base who are just miserable and negative all the time, but I never thought this team was going to get put out in the first 2 rounds. So, any more thoughts before we move on to the ladies?
no. Like I said, it's just they got to stay on it. They have to be locked in this weekend because you've had trouble with what's coming. So and I assume it's very hard to beat the same team 3 times in one season. I think these boys will be locked in. But yeah, let's talk about these
100%.
Lady Vols.
I mean, quite the contrary. With how the season ended for the Lady Vols and Kim Caldwell, I would say this is kind of a surprise here. They look like they were dead in the water, losing four of their last five heading into the tournament here. And it was either three of their last four of their last five, but point still remains. They kind of limped into the thing, and then they beat Ohio State on their home floor to advance to the Sweet 16. An Ohio State team that hadn't lost at home all year withstood a ridiculous, crazy run, a 16-0 run in the third quarter, and still won by 15. Your thoughts?
Kim's her. I mean, people, you know what? And to me, uh, I kind of look at it at a buddy, Kentucky Cavalry, shout out Kentucky Cavalry, but he was talking about the Wildcats in their Sweet 16 run right now, as Mark Pope is his first year. So,
Mm-hmm.
and they say, okay, this is a success. Anything beyond this point is just sprinkles on top because no one thought we would get here on year one with Kim. And she's gotten us to a Sweet 16, which is huge. Anything past this is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
If they lose against to Texas, I mean, it is what it is. Texas is a really good. They're a number one seed for a reason,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, but that's what I'm saying. I think they got where they thought they could get. They could win too. I mean, we didn't lose to Texas by a lot the
Mm-mm.
two times we played them. So it's just I'm proud to say that I feel like the Lady Vols basketball team is back.
Yeah. Um, I don't know how many tournaments it's now. It's been now for
43, I think.
43,
I
and,
think.
and Tennessee has made the Sweet 16 in 37 of them. Um, Pretty substantial stat there. But it's like you said, Lady Vols are back. I mean, this is expected. There's only been six times where they haven't made it to the Sweet 16, and that's why a change had to be made, and
Mm-hmm.
the change is working out so far. I thought it was. I saw a lot on Twitter during that 16-0 run, which, by the way, lasted like 2 minutes. It was one of the most ridiculous runs I've ever seen. But Kim calls a timeout. They get it together. They go on a 7-0 run themselves to separate at the end of the third quarter. Also, they still won the third quarter, 26-24, with the 16-0 run from Ohio State. That's how you bounce back. And then the fourth quarter was just, it was easy from there. I mean, fourth quarter, they outscored them 16-8. They really locked down the defense in the fourth quarter, which is something that this team hasn't done a ton this year. It's normally been just outpacing people and
Mm-hmm.
out shooting people, but they really buckled down on defense. Which I thought was might have been the most impressive part, besides withstanding that run in a road game.
Oh yeah, and we're talking about how well Kim does her thing with recruiting so far and everything like that. I think there's a player on Ohio State that really did well. That'll be a Lady Vol. That you're talking about outpacing them. Ohio State also is a team that plays like Tennessee does.
Yeah,
So it was just all day running up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. And I'm talking about Jelani Cambridge, Nashville native. Shout out Chaslanier. But another one that could possibly be a Lady Vol. And she played really well. Um, and like you said, the Lady Vols had to step it up on defense in the fourth quarter. And they did just that. Maybe she's getting a little bit of Rick Barnes esque,
yeah,
getting to hang around Knoxville a little bit. Maybe she could incorporate that. If you're up big in the fourth quarter, not saying they were here, but they could incorporate something to really flex down on that defense.
yeah. I also thought Talasia Cooper off the bench worked really well. Um, she was Tennessee's best player in this game. When you add in her 7 steals as well, which is just outstanding. Um, and like you said, it's gravy from this point on for the Lady Vols. Um, I mean, it's going to take a substantial effort to beat Texas, but I have no doubt in my mind it would not shock me at all if they did it. Like
Mm-hmm.
they lost by single digits on the road at Texas without Kim. It was the week that she had her baby. To go at the Longhorns herself, but not with one of her assistants leading the team. And to their credit, they almost beat them. They almost beat them down in Austin, but it's going to be a great game when it goes down. Any more thoughts on the Lady Vols before we finish up with some baseball? It's a pretty substantial win down in Tuscaloosa.
Another, I'm pretty sure what day is the Lady Vols game? 29th. So 2 days after we play Thursday, right?
It's TBD at this point is what I'm seeing.
Well,
The
it's the 29th time I think is,
yeah.
but the men play on Thursday, correct?
Men play on Friday night, so the
All
women
right.
will play Saturday.
Okay, so you go to the game in Indy. Automatically, once we beat Kentucky, you travel right down to Birmingham
Yeah,
because you got to. I mean, it's gonna be a good game. I really think Kim could upset Texas here. This is a good primetime choke spot for
yeah.
a big time 1 seed.
Yeah, and then once the Lady Vols win, you travel back up to Indy to watch
Yeah,
the
next,
watch the Vols make a Final Four.
and then after that, go back.
Go back to Birmingham and
Yeah, and
watch
watch the Lady
what
Balls
Lady.
do it.
Yeah,
But hey, the Lady Balls, they have a tough run here. I mean, if you beat Texas,
yeah,
you have to play either Notre Dame or what, TCU, I think.
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah, hey, but let me tell you, Sidonia Prince does not want to play Tennessee because she will be running up and not gonna like that. So it's gonna be a fun little experience. But yeah, no, Lady Balls could definitely win it. And moving on to the baseballs.
yeah. Middle of last week, Tennessee drops that game to ETSU, and I know everybody's said it since then. ETSU is a good team, and I want to say midweeks don't matter if you win or lose, okay? But they do matter for developing guys on your team, especially pitching for later on down the road. ETCU gave it all they got. They were spending their best pitchers. They clearly wanted to win that game. Tony had a more macro view of it, and they
Mm-hmm.
dropped it 7-6. They shouldn't have dropped the game. Period. They gave up the lead in the ninth inning. Jay Abernathy smokes a ball right to their glove in right field that on a would-be walk-off hit. Things had to go really wrong for us to lose that game, but nonetheless, you travel down to Tuscaloosa 2 days later, and he dropped the first game of that series 6-5 from basically just one inning of a complete disaster. Errors this, walks that, hit by pitches. They put up 5 runs. The Vols weren't able to overcome it. But then in the last 2 games, Tennessee showed who was boss and that we still own Alabama. Pretty much everything.
And everything, yeah. I mean, football starting to come around. Hey, real quick in football, I think Tennessee beats beats Alabama in Tuscaloosa this year. Hot take, but back to baseball. But yeah, I mean, would you if I told you, you know, Liam Doyle's going to give up, all these runs on Friday or Thursday technically,
Mm-hmm.
and then your freshman Tegan Coons comes in and shuts this hey, Alabama's no joke when it comes to their
Yeah.
lineup is just as stacked as ours, and um, I would not expect. I think we found our Sunday starter. I think we found our Sunday 1-2 combo. Uh,
Yeah.
those two guys, man, they pitch lights out. I mean, Tegan Coons he had a no hitter going into
The fourth
the
inning, I
fourth
think.
inning, yeah, fourth or
Yeah.
fifth inning, and you can't. We were talking about it in the group chat. You can't take a kid out like that, and he did just that. He gave us the 4 2/3 or 4 1/3, whatever it was, and got the job done. And to do that against a top 10 team on the road, as a freshman, I'll take that all day long.
100%. And like you said, I was just as impressed on Sunday with Crenzel coming in the game and shutting down a rally or two there when the game was still just 4-0 or 5-0 until he kind of knocked it open in the later innings. But it was just a really good team effort the whole weekend. I mean, you didn't have Gavin Killen for this series, and I thought Ariel Antigua just stood in that position. I think he started all three games, if I'm not mistaken. And he finally got some at bats, and then we saw it on Sunday. He can swing the bat when he gets consistent
Mm-hmm.
looks at when he gets consistent at bats, and you add in his defense. I mean, I don't know if there needs to be a conversation on who's playing short, but he is certainly an option to look at the rest of the way if things don't pan out like we think with Manny. And I'm not trying to put down Manny. He did have a rough Thursday night with a few errors, but we always say Tennessee has options, and I think Antigua. I would be fine with Antigua being our everyday shortstop.
Oh yeah, I mean defensively, he's your best defender. Like there's not even I can't even think anyone else that would even be even close. If you get him, I like him in the 9 spot. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's fine. He's not no Dean Curley who's gonna be able to smoke a ball 450 feet, but having that glove is really nice. Every time it's hit the shortstop, you're like, no, that's an out.
Yeah,
And again, I'm one of the I am probably the biggest Manny fan here. I think he brings a lot of energy. I think he's a good hitter. He's a good fielder, and it's gonna be hard not having him in the lineup. But this is what happens when you come to Tennessee. Like you're gonna have these tough situations where you know Antigua's a better defender. If you can get him if he's giving you quality hits at bats, great. But like you said, he should be in the field. He's like a magnet out there. And Dean Curley looks way better at third than he does short.
that's yeah.
That's his
It,
primary spot, is it?
I think so. I don't think the plan was ever for Curley when he came to Tennessee to be a shortstop. I think third was his spot, but his bat, forced him to be in the lineup last year. Like there was no bones about it. He was going to be on the field somewhere, and shortstop was his home. And I think that was the plan going into this year. But maybe this is all a moot point when Killen comes back. But like I said, it's just options on options. And another thing about Antigua, he started that rally in the eighth inning on Friday night that really, gave us that cushion that we ended up needing. A
Mm-hmm.
2-out rally, he gets on base, and then we score 4 runs in the eighth inning. Like that was huge. But like I said, just a team effort, and it's what you expect a team like Tennessee to do with all the talent they have after dropping 2 games in a row for the first time in God knows how long. They responded. And it was real
Mm-hmm.
nice to see. And again, to the point of midweek games don't matter. We're still number one in 4 out of the 5 polls, even going 2-2 last week. They really only care about the conference series. So
Yeah, and there's a lot of I don't know if there's really not a lot of teams that I'm really worried about in this conference. Other than like we played one already. I mean Florida and Bama, and we're 5-1.
yeah,
Um, we don't. I don't. We don't play Georgia during the regular season. Um, we go to Arkansas, correct? I think we go to Arkansas, LSU, and A&M comes to us, but A&M is
yeah,
they're in shambles. But yeah, no, this team's special, and you brought it up before about how it's the freshmen. Like the freshmen are studs. Jay Abernathy, Manny Marin, Levi Clark, Stone Lawless. I mean, he's not really a freshman, but he is in my eyes. Um, and then all the pitchers.
Yeah.
They're being fantastic. A lot of people don't even remember. Andrew Banky's still kind of hurt. AJ
Hmm.
Russell hurt. Like you're missing like your guys right now. Marcus Phillips is not who I thought he was going to be this year. He's pitching fantastic.
He's a beast.
And I want to shout out Dalton Bargo though, because Dalton Bargo absolutely raked this weekend.
Yep.
And I hate to say it, but I think he's going to be in the DH spot for right now until he slows down.
Yeah.
Because
Levi is just in his own head right now, and it's freshmen always go through this in the SEC. I think I said it to y'all. Like there comes a point where they hit a wall, and it seems like Levi's hitting his now, and I'd rather him hit it now than later on and work out of it in the early part of the conference slate. But I have full confidence that he'll bounce back because he's had. I don't think he's had a hit since the game one of the Florida series,
that
but
double, I think it was
yeah,
that double.
yeah, and he's just in his own head, and that's okay because like we always say, we have the options to make up for it. And I don't ever I coming into this year, I didn't expect freshmen to be contributing this much anyway.
No,
And when guys like Bargo can put a guy like Bargo, a veteran who's seen SEC pitching for this is going on his third year now, it's a luxury when your freshmen do hit these walls. But again, I expect him to bounce back, work out of it pretty soon.
yeah, Bargo is such a good piece too because he's a utility guy. He could catch, he could play
Hmm.
first, he could play third, he could play the outfield, and it's just like anybody like Gavin Keelan. Gavin Keelan wasn't even in the lineup for this Alabama series, who's the best bat on the team by far, in my
Hmm.
opinion, and he steps up. He hits the cycle in pretty much his four at bats, um, and you can't ask for more from him. He hasn't really made any big field errors. He's you know done what he's done and done what he's had to do
Yeah,
for this baseball team.
yeah. It's you mentioned earlier the teams in this conference. I think the upper echelon so far is Arkansas, Georgia, Tennessee, and LSU. I know LSU lost the series at Texas, but I still think they're a little bit better than Texas. And Texas is arguably right there. I think those two are interchangeable, but I'll go with LSU for now. And the rest of the league is just, it's kind of a logjam right now, of course. There's only been two series. Like you mentioned Florida, we took care of them, swept them. Georgia took care of them and swept them. But I still think they'll be a good team this year. I have no doubt that they will bounce back and be a contender near the end of the year. But we do go to LSU, like you said, and we end at Arkansas. I mean, that could be for the conference right there, the regular season. Um, but yeah, I think that's the upper echelon: Tennessee, Georgia, Arkansas, LSU. You,
Do we really put Georgia up there though? Because I understand Georgia, they could swing it, but their pitching is not good. And like or the Florida team they played, they got swept by us. I mean, they're
yeah,
0-6 in SEC play.
I
I am
mean,
kind of rubbing it in Florida fans' faces right now, but
I think so far you have to put them up there because they like you said, pitching's not the best, but they're just so dangerous at the plate. And like I said, it could change rapidly. I mean, that's Tennessee was 5-10 in 2023 and finished 16-14. I mean, teams can get hot or get cold for no particular reason at all. But again, I think right now you have to put Georgia there.
yeah, no. I mean, I'm just kind of busting their chops, but we'll see what they could do in postseason play because obviously they're not that great in postseason play as you saw last year. So,
Yeah. I
what the
mean,
best hitter in probably all college baseball on their team?
next up for the Vols, you got South Carolina, and they're one of the teams that are near the bottom of the conference right now at 1-5. You do have to go to Columbia. Um, I don't expect that to be easy. A team that's 1-5 is not going to want to be buried early in the season. and Tennessee will have to bring a great effort down there.
Do they? But like, here's my thing is like, I just don't see South Carolina being that tough this year.
I mean, I'm just looking at it from the point of giving them some semblance of credit, um, just based on records and the last few years of these programs. I think Tennessee should go down there and sweep them, but Tony's going to have the boys ready like they're playing, the 27 Yankees. Like they're, and that's how we've gotten this far. So I do agree with you, though. It shouldn't be too hard to go down there and at least get two of the three, if not sweep them. So
Oh
I
yeah.
think I think we're on the same page. Like it's just it's like with any game in any sport, you got to respect your opponent. But Tennessee should go down there and take care of business
Well,
without
here's my
much.
thing about baseball, and it'll be the last thing I swear. But like in SEC play, I don't care if you lose one. Kind of like the Alabama series. Like, yeah, you lost game one, and it makes it
Hmm.
more tough to win the next two. But if you win that Friday game, win that Saturday game, and you drop Sunday, I'm not as mad because you won the series.
Yeah,
So that's the main thing. Win your series, you won't have an issue.
yeah. I mean, again, to South Carolina's credit, they had to play Arkansas, and they had to play. I don't know who their first series was off the top of my head, but I know they just finished up with Arkansas, and like you said, win 2 out of 3, especially on the road. I think that's all you got to do in SEC play on the road is win half your games on the road, and you're going to be in a good spot. But of course, the goal is going down there and sweeping them, and then we have another team after that in our fourth conference series, A&M. Like we have a chance here to stack up a pretty good lead here in the conference if they just take care of business. After that, it's Kentucky. They're near the bottom of the conference. Before you
Yeah,
get,
I could see 7 to 8 wins.
yeah, yeah, you don't get real tough until your last 5 series. The last half of the series, the season, I mean, the conference slate is LSU, Auburn, Vanderbilt, Arkansas are your last four. That's where regular season championship is going to get decided. But again, they have a
And who
chance
do we
to.
play at home?
At home, we get Vanderbilt and Auburn. Away is
Okay,
LSU and Arkansas. We
two
also
of the
get good.
toughest places to play.
Yeah, yeah. It'll be fun, man. It'll be fun.
Yeah,
Um, and all the talk from LSU down there early in the year, and again, this doesn't matter yet about who's number one, who's number two, blah blah blah, all that. It'll shake itself out, I promise. And if we were to go down to Baton Rouge in a month's time and win that series, I'll be talking.
I
I'll
think
be
a lot of
talking.
people will.
Any more thoughts on baseball, man?
Nope, I think it's early in the season, so it's you know long season ahead.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, any more thoughts tonight at all before we meet back again later this week to preview?
Whoop Kentucky's ass. That's all I'm saying. That's all I want. I honestly, I haven't wanted something from this fall's basketball team this bad in a long time.
Yeah, I mean the only it's not the biggest game in program history, but it's the biggest game in this series history. This is the first time they've ever met in the tournament. I mean,
And they beat us twice already. They
yeah,
just.
and that can all be wiped away if we go out and take care of business Friday night. Like it ain't
I'm
gonna matter.
surprised we're 5 point favorites.
I'm slightly surprised. I think lines are set for a reason. I think a lot of people will see, oh, Tennessee's favoring Kentucky has beaten them twice.
We're gonna
Hammer
take the
Kentucky.
+5. Yeah,
Yeah, and which also gives me a lot of hope that Tennessee is favored because I think that's Vegas's angle here.
yeah.
Um,
Vegas knows something. Like, hey, it's you don't beat a team 3 times a lot.
no, I mean to end tonight. I know that's the common thread since yesterday. It's not hard. It's pretty hard to beat a team 3 times, but it can't happen. I mean, Alabama beat Kentucky 3 times this year. Um, so if Tennessee doesn't come to play, it will happen. And but I don't think that is going to happen. I think, like I said earlier, Ziegler and Mayshak. I just really don't think they're going to let their career end against the fucking Wildcats. So,
Listen, I will. Well, I'll say it on the podcast, but off air, I'll tell you why and how Tennessee wins this game.
and you'll
But
say it.
I'll
You
say it
say
on
it.
the podcast when
There
we
you go.
talk about it.
Go Vols, baby.
Go Vols.